Okay, today we're going to be talking about a style of leadership called servant leadership. Now, you think about it, what is a servant? What is a leader? The servant is the person who serves. The leader is the person who leads. Well, with the concept of servant leadership, the leader is a person who serves others. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Well, probably the perfect example of a servant leader would be Jesus, in that he was serving those that followed him. So, for example, if you think about this famous picture of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, Jesus was the leader, and the disciples were the followers. But the leader was serving his followers. He was washing their feet, so he served the people who followed him, and that essentially is the model of servant leadership. And what servant leadership has been applied to management as a style of management. And again, the idea is it's a leadership based on a desire to serve. You're a person who is essentially, or their overwhelming desire is to serve others, and then they make the conscious choice to lead. Now, servant leadership is actually something that's very important at Our Lady of Lake College. It's something that is talked about in our mission. It's something that is talked about as a model for how people in administration, staff members, faculty members, and students, based on this ideal as far as how to behave and how to. This is the style of leadership we want to model here at the college. And, basically this is a Franciscan college, so, and servant leadership is certainly based on Franciscan values, so it makes sense. When you have an organization that models servant leadership, essentially the workplace is a community. And essentially the leader's job essentially is to serve the members of the community. And people who strive for becoming servant leaders, that's essentially what they're striving to do. And the concept of servant leadership was coined by Robert Greenleaf, who basically did work in management research. He had a management career at AT&T. He's been a consultant, and he's been a consultant to colleges and universities, as well as private organizations. To click on this link here, let's do that now. We can go to the Greenleaf Center, which gives information about Robert Greenleaf and servant leadership. So this is the Robert K. Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership. Good place to explore. It looks like they have a conference here. Where is the conference going to be? Or did we already miss it? 2014. It's in September 24th to 26th in Atlanta, Georgia. And again, you can read about maybe what's on the agenda at this particular conference. Learn a little bit more about what's going on in servant leadership. But this is obviously a good resource for you to learn more about the concept. Robert Greenleaf read a short story called Journey to the East by Hermann Hesse. And essentially this story kind of gave to him the idea of what servant leadership is. It's a story about this journey, a mythical journey, a spiritual quest of a group of people, quest to the East. And there is a servant among that group named Leo, and he tends to the group's needs. He entertains them. He's essentially like a source of inspiration for them, but he's really just a servant. He's not the leader of this group. He's just a servant. However, during this journey, Leo disappears. Well, after Leo disappears, the group kind of falls apart. They lose direction and they quit their spiritual quest and they all go back to where they came from. However, the narrator of the story, who was a member of that quest, kind of wants to do some searching on this and tries to, for many years, he actually finds Leo. And he takes him back to that order that sponsored the journey originally. And at that point, then he realizes that Leo was actually the spiritual leader of that order. And so he was the leader all the time, even though he was essentially playing the role of the servant, serving everyone else in the group. So the lesson that Greenleaf learned from this is the idea that people who are servants essentially can be leaders, that leaders can be servants. And that's the idea, is that the person who leads should be motivated to serve those he is leading. Okay. So the philosophy is, you first is a deep desire to serve, then you're making the choice to lead. Okay? You're leading for the purpose of better serving others. That is essentially your purpose of leadership. Okay? You want to help other people grow. You want to help your organization become to improve, to become better. So your idea is help those around you grow, help the organization improve and grow around you. You want to cooperate. You want to use it's certainly not about competition. It's about cooperation. It's about collaborating with others. It's a shared leadership style, because it's certainly not you saying something and everybody else follows what you do. You are serving the community, so the community is saying essentially what it wants and where it wants to go, and you are serving the community's need in order to be able to do that. It involves service. You are serving others, and that is your main goal here. So these are some of the, three of the main ideas, that qualities of servant leadership. So Greenleaf again posed the question: can those two roles, be servant leader, can be fused into one person? And does it work in the real world? Is it too touchy-feely, or is it not going to work? And the answer is that it does work. After 30 years, 20 years of research, the answer is yes, it does work. Among the people who work at the organization, there's greater commitment, there's greater job satisfaction, there's greater effort. There's actually, the idea of organizational commitment, the idea that you are committed to the organization. More likely to be committed to the organization with this kind of leadership. You trust in the leadership, you feel as if your voice is listened to, and so it's a positive work environment. And it's a kind of leadership that can be considered transformational, transforming individuals and transforming the institutions. So it's clearly not about group domination. Some of the emphasis is, again, the idea of increased service to others. It's a holistic approach to work. You're caring not just about the individual job that needs to be done, but the person and the person's growth. It promotes a sense of community, that people in the organization see themselves as a community. And I would say, working at Our Lady Lake College, that we definitely see ourselves as a community. I feel as if I'm a member of that community. Certainly facilitating personal growth, as I've said before, is that the idea is make everybody better and try to help people grow. And it's not about just the leader, it's about the entire group, the entire organization. It's certainly going to be there's going to be certainly shared leadership. It's certainly not just going to be the top-down approach. It's going to be a collaborative, shared leadership style. And if you remember, we talked about in the chapter on leadership, the concept of transformational leadership. Well, servant leadership can be considered a type of transformational leadership. Okay, it is sets a moral compass for the institution. It promotes a feeling of community, and it promotes a willingness to sacrifice self-interest to reach a goal. So again, it's transformational. In other words, when you think about transactive leadership, it's sort of like the leader saying, okay, I'll do this for you. I'll give you these kind of rewards if you do the work that I assigned for you. So it's a this for that kind of a thing. But a transformational leadership involves, personal growth among everybody involved. It's about changing the way things are done. It's not about, I'll do this for you, you do this for me. It's about that shared transformation in both the leader and the follower to essentially be committed to the organization, committed to personal and organizational growth. So it's a transformational style. And again, if you are taking the role of a servant in this, you're expecting that there's always going to be the better mousetrap, the better wheel is in the making. So in other words, you're never going to be, rest on your laurels and be satisfied. You're always looking to be able to do things better, help people more, help the organization do a better job. In other words, you're always looking for improvement. If you think about the concept, if you remember from your intro to psychology, the concept of self-actualization, you're becoming the best you can be. As a servant leadership, you're doing that not just for yourself, but for your organization and the people in it. So here are the 10 characteristics, then an 11th one here of caring, as the characteristics of servant leadership. So let's go briefly into each of these. The servant leader listens, receptively listening, not just to other people, but also listening to their inner voice as well. They're not just ignoring those who are disagreeing with them. They want to listen and find out what others are thinking, what other people's concerns are. So you're listening. And again, this goes right into empathy here. You can't have empathy if you're not listening. With empathy, you are trying to understand other people's points of view, other people's feelings and their experience. Putting yourself into their shoes. So as a servant leader, you essentially need to be able to put yourself into the perspective of anybody who is working at that organization. So that is essentially what you want to do with empathy. You want to be able to take the perspective of everyone in your organization. Are you being fair? Are you being is everything working well? Could things be improved for everyone at the organization? You need to be able to take others' perspectives. Healing. You want to be able to heal broken spirits. In other words, if someone is hurt, if their feelings, not either physically, psychologically, emotionally, you want to be able to help make that person better. So if somebody is having a problem at work and it is making them feel dejected, you want to lift that person up, make them feel better, heal their spirit. So that's something you want to pay attention to. And again, that of course follows from empathy. In other words, being able to know when someone needs healing. Awareness. Being aware of yourself and aware of what is going on. You can't be clueless. You have to be aware of what is going on around you. This helps you make good decisions. Persuasion. You're certainly not, as a servant leader, trying to give orders and tell people what to do. What you'd want to do is you'd want to persuade, convince, and help build consensus around a particular goal for the organization, rather than just saying, this is the way it's going to be, I'm telling you what you must do. You want to convince and build a consensus. You want to be able to conceptualize, provide look at the big picture, provide the visionary concepts for the organization. look at the mission. You want to be able to think in those terms and be able to see the future from this point of view. Which again brings us into foresight. Want to be able to learn from the past, preparing yourself for the future, looking at the decisions you're making now and being able to predict what it will be like in the future. Stewardship. If you are a leader of an organization, the organization essentially, you should see it as in your hands for protection. And you want to be a good steward to the organization. You want when you leave the organization to leave it better than when you got it. And therefore, and again, think about this as a student here. Perhaps you would like to make Our Lady Lake College better than when you began. Make a contribution to make the college a better place. A lot of students, don't necessarily realize that they're part of the organization too. And they can make a contribution to make the school a better place. It's not just about you receiving grades from us. It's about your contributions to the college as well. So think about that in maybe organizations at the college you can join and whatnot. Think about yourself perhaps as a future servant leader. Commitment to the growth of people. Again, that's one of the things we've talked about before with servant leadership. You're interested in improving the well-being of the members of the organization. Everyone in it, from the top to the bottom. You also want to build community. You want to build a sense of family. And again, I've said before that I feel as if that is the case at the college that I work for. I feel that we do have a sense of community. So it's a nice place to work. Finally, caring is added to the list. Again, you want to be able to care for others, care for the community, and that's a major aspect of being a servant leader. So again, the concept of servant leadership has been refined and redefined over time. Simplified into these 5 characteristics here. Altruistic calling, again, this is a motive to serve. To altruism means to help, to serve others. So a calling to serve. And again, the idea of a calling, meaning that this is a sense that this is something you really feel you need to do. This is a sense that you feel that this is your purpose. This is your calling. Emotional healing. You want to be able to again, create a sense of healing, create a sense of helping people who perhaps may have been hurt to try to get over that and be a contributing member of the community. And so essentially you want to promote that in your organization. Persuasion mapping, again, seeing the big picture and helping others see it. Get everybody looking toward that big goal in the future. And add everybody on the same page moving toward it. Sense of wisdom. You're not going to be able to see the future for sure, but a wise person does a better job than someone who is not wise in terms of being able to see the consequences of certain kinds of actions. So you make your decisions wisely, not rashly. Finally, again, stewardship, organizational stewardship. You want to leave the institution a better place than it was when you started here. And I hope to do that when I retire, I could say that the institution is better since I've been working there than when it was before I was working there. And you want to be able to do that as well wherever you have your career, I would hope. An interesting summary of how servant leadership differs from other leadership styles. So self-serving leadership, again, the objective is to be served. With servant leadership, the objective is to serve. Self-serving leadership, they seek to be understood. Servant leadership, they seek to understand others. Self-serving leadership, you're interested in your self-image, advancement, and the entitlements of your position. But in servant leadership, you're valuing the potential and the achievements of other people. You want the people who are in your organization to succeed. It's not about you. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these here. It kind of gives an indication of the differences between the two. So again, here is the image of Jesus serving his disciples. There is a closing picture to remember when it comes to what servant leadership is.